Should the UK pay reparations for slavery?
Probably, maybe, I'm not sure.
Last week, UK Prime Minister Keir Starmer and King Charles attended the Commonwealth Summit in Samoa, where they faced renewed calls and pressure for Britain to pay slavery reparations to its former colonies for the UK's role in the transatlantic slave trade. Despite Downing Street's insistence on keeping the slavery reparations off the agenda, 56 Commonwealth heads announced an agreement to a reparatory justice dialogue after the summit, with Keir Starmer later stressing that none of the discussions have been about money. Proponents of reparatory justice say it can take many forms, including educational programs, debt relief, or public health assistance, as well as a declaration of formal apology. Successive UK governments, however, have long rejected calls for financial compensation to the countries that have suffered from slavery under British rule. But supporters argue that although slavery reparations cannot undo historical wrongdoings, it may remedy persisting inequalities faced by the descendants of enslaved communities due to their colonial legacy.
I don't think that people are responsible for what was done by other people. I wasn't born then. I don't think reparations. I think it is a form of showing off at worst.
Yes, I believe they should, because those countries that were part of the Commonwealth, the people really suffered. I myself am a native of one of those countries, and my great-grandparents, they lost their land, they lost their livelihood, they lost their dignity.
Personally and honestly, I'd say yes, we need to be aware of it, yes, we need to take responsibility for it, but I don't think we should be paying whatever that word was.
It's right that part of our budget should be allocated to helping other countries, but I don't know if an attachment of guilt should be made to it, because it's what all countries in one way or another have done in the past.
I don't think it's going to happen, because according to what the so-called big countries are saying is that rather than paying, they might try to develop the countries. But I don't know how they want to do that, because we got the Commonwealth, we got this and that, but there's no development since over 40, 50 years.
After the British Empire had abolished slavery in 1837, the government paid former slave owners compensation for loss of property that totalled £20 million, the equivalent of £300 million today. Yet no compensation had been offered to the former slaves or their families. This is what their descendants are demanding today. However, putting a figure to repair the damage done by such a long-sustained historical wrongdoing seems difficult. Earlier this year, the Dean of Cambridge's Trinity College claimed Britain owed £205 billion in reparations. And in 2023, a report by an American consultancy firm concluded that the UK owes 14 countries a total of $24 trillion. Another difficulty that arises is the question of who will carry out the payments. Should ordinary and working-class taxpayers be responsible for paying as well? Or could institutions, companies, and wealthy families that benefited from the slave trade be put under the spotlight? Let alone discussing the means of compensation, UK governments, including Keir Starmer's, refused to declare a formal apology. Now that Commonwealth countries have secured an agreement on reparatory justice dialogue, time will tell whether it will really take place, and in which form. Britain continues to downplay global calls for reparations, but these voices have only grown louder in recent years. Last week's Commonwealth Summit in Samoa was only one instance of that growing demand. So how will the UK respond?